everyone, I'm Kristen from Modmatic. In this video I'm going to show you how to assemble your PowerUp Advanced battery kit. This video is intended to supplement and not replace the written guide found on our website. Be sure to read the guide for details, tips, and important safety information. Let's go over what's in your kit. You've got a battery, 2 different kinds of diodes, mounting tape, PowerUp Advanced board, capacitors and a voltage regulator, a socket and header, a charging board, optional light pipe, and spring contacts. You'll need a soldering iron with solder, some flush cutters, a hobby knife, a small flathead screwdriver, and a metal file. If you're adding the optional light pipe, you'll need a drill with a 5/64 inch bit and some super glue. Clean up your board using your flush cutters and metal file. Simply trim and file any of these tabs or these rough edges around the board. If your board has a large tab in the center, go ahead and cut and file it too. When you're all done, your board should look like this, nice and smooth all around. Take the 2 SB1100 diodes and solder them onto these locations. Diodes are polarized, so make sure the gray band on each one is oriented as shown on the board. When soldered into place, they should look like this. Take the other diode and solder onto this location. Again, make sure that the gray band on the diode is oriented as shown on the board. When you're done, it should look like this. Solder the voltage regulator onto its location here. It's polarized, so make sure its rounded side lines up with the shape of the figure on the board. Slightly spread out the leads of the regulator and then place it onto the board. It won't sit completely flush with the board. Once soldered, bend the voltage regulator over onto its flat side. When you're all done, it should look like this. Note that the regulator is laying flat on the board. Take the 2 capacitors and solder them onto either side of the voltage regulator. They're not polarized, so don't worry too much about orientation. When soldered into place, they should look like this. Grab the 4-pin socket and solder it right here. When you're done, it should look like this. Solder the 4-pin header onto the charger board at these 4 pads. If you're using a battery that came with your kit, or one that supports at least a 500 mA charge current, solder this jumper on the charger board. Otherwise, the charger board will only produce 100 mA. When you're all done, it should look like this. Flip over your board and trim all the leads. Try to get them as flush as possible with the board. This will reduce the risk of puncturing the battery when the board is mounted to it. Do the same thing for the charger board. You're going to solder these 2 spring contacts onto the 2 rectangular pads. Do this by first fitting each contact into its notch. Then set the board down on an edge like that of a piece of wood. The easiest way to solder these is to apply downward pressure to the contact with the soldering iron. Keeping that downward pressure while feeding solder into the joint will allow the contact and pad to heat, and eventually the solder will flow into both. Go slow and be patient with this step. Once soldered, they should look like this. You can go ahead and plug the charger board into the PowerUp Advanced board. In these next steps, you'll trim your Game Boy Advance battery compartment to make room for PowerUp Advance. It's not necessary to remove your shell, though you can if you prefer. We're just using a loose one for demonstration purposes. Start by removing this metal clip to keep it from damaging or shorting your battery. Do this by inserting a small flathead screwdriver behind the clip to release its small metal tab. The clip should lift right out. Trim off this ridge using flush cutters or a hobby knife. This ridge along the right should be trimmed off too. Trimming this section in the upper left-hand corner will make room for the battery wires. It should be smooth here, along this wall, and here in this back corner. With this piece of double-sided mounting tape, you'll attach the PowerUp Advance board to the battery like this. Flip the boards over and place the mounting tape right here. Before mounting your boards permanently to the battery, it's a good idea to test fit PowerUp Advance into your battery compartment. We're skipping the test fit in this video, but you can find more details in the written guide mentioned earlier. This is what it should look like when you're done. The battery's top edge should align with the top edge of the PowerUp Advance, and the battery's right edge should rest against the spring contacts. Hold off on plugging the battery in until a little later. If you'd like easy access to the micro USB port, you can trim a notch like this in your battery cover. It should be 3/8 of an inch wide and 1/4 inch tall. When it's all cut and filed, your battery cover should look like this. Another optional step is to install a light pipe in this general area. We'll use that 5/64 inch bit to drill a hole right about here. Then, just insert the light pipe from the outside with the narrow end in first and press firmly so it sits flush. Flip the cover over and apply a small dab of super glue around the light pipe. You're just about done, so now it's time to plug in that battery connector. Install PowerUp Advance with its left side in first. Make sure not to pinch the battery wires. They should feed into the cavity that you cut out earlier. Then press down over the spring contacts until it snaps into place. All that's left is to replace your cover, charge your battery, and pop in your favorite game. Then enjoy hours of Game Boy bliss. Thanks for watching. For more information, go to modmatic.io/PowerUpAdvance.